You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Bama, we just beat the hell out of you. That was Ole Miss's first ever school victory on the road against a top 5 opponent. Hello, I'm Steven Willis, the host of the Locked On Ole Miss podcast, and we are going to instantly overreact, and I'm sure we're going to overreact tonight because Ole Miss just finished off a 74-64 victory over the Alabama Crimson Tide. It was a defensive clinic. It was absolutely amazing. And if I can just say this, Malik Dia is a grown man. 21 points, 19 rebounds. He was the best player on the court. You were playing against a top 5 team, and Malik Dia was the best player on the court. I thought I had seen for the last couple of days. I think that Malik Dia has turned into the alpha on this team. I think that Malik Dia was becoming a special player. And lo and behold, he's turning into an NBA player right before our eyes. He is dominating games. He is such a handful to deal with. This Ole Miss team is 4-0. 4-0 on the season into the SEC. Road game against Mississippi State this weekend. This we talked about all week and all season. This was a race to 8 in the SEC. Now it's at the point where 8 might just happen. That's there. They're doing what they need to do. If this continues, this might be a race to 12. This might be a race to 14 because this Ole Miss basketball team that played tonight is good enough to win the entire freaking SEC. This team defensively is absolutely special. We talked about the no middle defense, and Tim Thomas comes on the show every week. I'll interview him tomorrow. We're going to put the show up on Friday. So we'll talk about this game a little bit on Friday. But Chris Beard and his no middle defense completely befuddled Alabama. They made livings off of giant skip passes for 3-point shots, and they were really good at getting open looks. But every time they tried the giant skip pass, there was an Ole Miss player sitting right there to where they were completely befuddled. You couldn't drive. They completely forced them out of the middle. Talk about Mark Adams coming in of the no middle defense fame, one of Chris Beard's original assistants at Texas Tech. This Ole Miss basketball team is special, is really good. And we thought about at the beginning of the season that, okay, let's just go there, try to get to 8. This is a tournament team. I believe this is a tournament team. Win the game against Georgia. We don't know how good Georgia is, but again, that Georgia game, Ole Miss started out slow, eked into the game at halftime, second half dominated the game. Did that against Georgia. Fine, fair enough. Went up to Arkansas, same script. Slow start, get back into the game, second half completely dominate the game. Third game, LSU, same thing. Slow start, get to halftime, second half, dominate the game. Now you're going on the road to number 4 ranked Alabama. The best team that Ole Miss has played this entire season, if you want to go by rankings. Somewhat of a slow start. They did not shoot the ball particularly well, although the defense was there from the very beginning in this game. This was 40 minutes of defense from Chris Beard and the Ole Miss Rebels, and it was absolutely fantastic. Alabama was up by, I think, 4 at halftime. Second half, Ole Miss completely dominated the game. Again, same script every single week. The second half of the game, Ole Miss is absolutely taking teams apart. And they're playing old-style basketball with mid-range jumpers and things like that. This is absolutely fantastic and fun to see. I'm getting pretty fired up. I'm starting to get in. I was a student at Ole Miss in 97. Whenever they played Temple in the NCAA tournament, the next year I was up there. So this is kind of reminding me when Ole Miss kind of got that going during that time frame. You know, the Valpo year and the year that Ole Miss were Keith Carter and all that playing. This is kind of starting to feel like that. I think that was back-to-back SEC West championships. But this Ole Miss team can win the SEC. The team that played tonight can beat anybody in the conference. I don't care if it's Auburn. I don't care if it's Tennessee, Florida, Missouri, whoever's in front of Ole Miss. The team that played tonight, Ole Miss can win. That's the way it is. And if Ole Miss is in a game rebounding, if you do not absolutely crush Ole Miss rebounding the ball, Ole Miss is going to beat you. That is what we're finding out. Whenever you cannot dominate the offensive boards, when you can't get second chance points, Ole Miss will beat you. And it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter where we're playing. It doesn't matter anything like that. This was an absolutely fantastic game where Ole Miss just absolutely whipped Alabama's ass. Beat them up and down the floor. Alabama tried some threes. They went on some runs. There was that weird technical foul that got called where the SEC office tried to save Alabama and give them a 4-point play. They still only got 2 points because they missed the free throws. But Ole Miss was able to pull away against everybody. Everybody they've played has been a close game at halftime, and the second half, Ole Miss is absolutely dominated. Georgia's a good team, as we've seen. They beat Kentucky. Arkansas, we don't know exactly what they are. We'll find out in a little bit. They're playing as we speak right now against LSU. LSU's probably a lower end of the conference team. But Alabama, and then next week on the road at Mississippi State. Remember, in the second half of the show, we are going to take your comments. Be sure and put in the comments where you're commenting from and what your name is and all that, and we will be sure to read that. That'll be the second part of the show. So be patient about that because we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to do a little box score house cleaning a little bit and talk about what went on in this ball game. So let's see exactly how it goes and look at it. When we come back, we're going to go over the box score a little bit, and then we'll get into your comments. This is the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. You know, after the holiday hustle, there's nothing better than giving your home a little TLC. For me, it's decluttering and refreshing my space. That always helps me kind of get back into the routine. If you're looking at tidying up, clearing out, or giving your space a new look, to kick off the new year, Wayfair has everything that you need, all while staying within your budget. Recently, I was shopping for furniture, recliner to be specific, to upgrade my living room, and Wayfair's huge selection made it so easy for me to find pieces that fit both my style and budget. The best part, free and hassle-free delivery, even for larger items like a coffee table and bookshelf. The website is so user-friendly, and I loved how quickly I found everything I needed with no stress. Wayfair truly made it simple to turn home goals into reality. Give your home a refresh that it deserves with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com today. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. All right, so let's look at the box score a little bit of this game and do a little house cleaning. This is a game where, like I said, Malik Dia absolutely took over, and we'll talk about that. But shooting-wise, Ole Miss did not shoot 40% for the game. Now, they did not turn the ball over, and they rebounded the heck out of it, and they played the best defense that I can remember since Rob Evans was calling things on Ole Miss's roster. But 38% was not ideal. 6 of 21 for three, a big one from Sean Petula, a big one from Juju Murray that allowed the lead to get extended. That was huge, but there was timely threes, but not consistent. Rebound, they had 37. They did have 21 fouls, including some ticky-tack stuff, if we're going to be honest. Alabama shot 42.6%. Ole Miss did a great job of cutting them off from the basket. They were 5 of 20 from three. They had 21 turnovers. The turnovers are Alabama's fault. Ole Miss forced them, but Alabama is one of the most undisciplined, sloppy basketball teams that I've seen in quite some time. They had 39 rebounds. They did crash the glass. They had 16 fouls. Now, if you look individually, Malik Dia, 23 points, 19 rebounds. Yes, you heard that correctly, including 4 offensive rebounds, but he had 15 defensive rebounds. We talked about pretty much consistently for the last couple of days that it was important to keep Alabama off the offensive glass and make them a one-and-done trip down the court. That it happened. Now, Matthew Morello had 11. I thought this was a game that he needed 20. That didn't happen. And if you look at my prediction, I actually predicted Alabama to win the game, and that obviously didn't happen. There was a big Big 12 from Sean Padula. He had 5 rebounds. 3 steals and 4 assists. Juju Murray had 5 assists and a steal as well. If you look at Alabama, they only had 2 players in double figures. Ole Miss had 3. And when you look at what happened in this ball game, it's absolutely mind-numbingly cool. Like I said, we're going to go to your comments pretty early in just a second, but we do want to talk about this a little bit before we got started. The main thing was Malik Dia. Malik Dia, 23 and 19. He almost had a 20-20 game in basketball. We were waiting on him to have a double-double game, and he almost goes 20-20 whenever he has his first big game like that, and he was the best player on the court, period. There was no other player as good as Malik Dia on this court. Not Grant Nelson, not Mark Sears, not any of them. Malik Dia was the best player on the basketball court. When you have a Sean Padula, when you have a Matthew Morrell, and so many different players that can score the basketball, so many players that are turning into run stoppers, you have a chance that the other team can't ever sprint out. I talked on my show this week that the scary thing about this Alabama team is you could be playing really well and be up like 26-25 at the under 8 timeout in the first half. And then by the under 4 timeout, you're down by 15 points. This team can score points in bunches, and Ole Miss did an excellent job of preventing that tonight. This was a masterclass by Chris Beard. This was a masterclass by Ole Miss basketball. This is probably the greatest win, if you want to take a top 5 win on the road in Ole Miss basketball history. I hate to be overly hyperbolic about it, but that's just the truth. When you never have beaten a top 5 team on the road and you do that, that is the hardest victory to get. So it's got to be up the list. Now, there's NCAA tournament wins. There was a shot against Notre Dame by Jason Harrison in, I think, 2001, the Sweet 16 year. All of that big wins. I'm not poo-pooing them at all. But whenever you win a game on the road against a top 5 opponent, that hits a little bit differently. And this Ole Miss basketball team has announced their arrival on the national scale tonight. They have a game against Mississippi State. It's an absolute free shot now. You got a 1-1 week. A split week is the worst that you can have with Alabama and Mississippi State on the schedule. And at Mississippi State just lost by 20 points to Auburn. If Ole Miss's defense travels like I think Ole Miss's defense can travel, I think Ole Miss has a good shot down in Humphrey Coliseum. And listen, I understand more than most. It just seems that Mississippi State wins down in Starkville and Ole Miss wins in Oxford. And it doesn't matter how good the teams are. And I think everybody needs to keep that perspective in the back of their mind. But this Ole Miss basketball team and their defense, Ole Miss just held like the best offensive basketball team in the country, averages 91 points per game to 64 points. They almost held that team below 60, continuing that. This team plays some defense, man. They play some real defense. They are hard to basically make a living out on the perimeter. They are really good at collapsing in towards the basket, and they make it hard to operate. Now, is Ole Miss going to lose some games this year? Yeah, probably. It's the SEC. That's going to happen. But this Ole Miss team absolutely can contend for an SEC championship. We heard Dane Bradshaw on the broadcast tonight said the SEC champion is going to be the one that has the best road record likely. Ole Miss has a road win at number 4 Alabama, which they said was the best win in the entire SEC all season, and they have a win on the road at Bud Walton Arena at Arkansas. They have 2 road wins through 4 games, and they have a 3rd road game coming up with Humphrey Coliseum that's going to be potentially another opportunity at a quad 1 level win. Honestly, I cannot say how proud I am of this Ole Miss basketball team and the way they performed tonight. This was a free shot. This was a chance to go in and try and play your best. And if you do that, if you play your best and going through that, whatever happens, happens. Kind of let the cards fall where they may. Well, the cards fell right now, and we saw how good this team could be. If you can win a game at the number 4 team in the country on the road, you can win a game anywhere against anybody, anytime. So when Malik Dia is having interviews after the LSU game and saying, what can you do this season? He's like, this is the Final Four team. And everybody's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. The Final Four team, that's absolutely nuts. And then all of a sudden this happens and you're like, well, okay. Chris Beard is working a little bit of magic, and that is absolutely fantastic to see. All right. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That's definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions. It monitors your spendings and even helps lowers your bills so you can help grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users that have saved a total of 500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 per year when they use all of the premium features. For me, the best feature is the subscription tracker. I've used it to cancel services I was not using anymore. I've already saved a ton. Plus, with their goals feature, I've been able to automatically set aside money for my future. No more stressing about budgeting every single month. So cancel those unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right, so let's go to the chat room a little bit and spend the last 15 minutes or so talking about what's going on with you. So just bear with me. Remember, put in the chat, if you comment on there, where you're commenting from, put what you want to say, and then say your name if you have a nickname in there as well. Zachary Turba comes in and says, this Rebs basketball team is for real. Yes, they absolutely are. They announced their arrival on the scene. Everybody is going to talk about that. James Hall says, Brookhaven, Mississippi. He's from there. Hey, Old Brook. All right. Great win. First time ever beating a top 5 team on their own home court. Hotty toddy. This was Chris Beard's signature win. This is why Keith Carter hired Chris Beard. Zachary Turba, the 8 wins is what we were focused on, but this team is focused on much more. And that is absolutely fine. I'm glad they are, honestly. Really, really good as a basketball program. But is get to that 8 first, and then everything over that is gravy. And right now, Ole Miss is 4 wins away from that 8. NS says, Steven, what is your favorite thing about Coach Beard? So much love, such a great coach. Love what he's done for this team and program. What I love about this team is the defense. It's a different looking defense that I can remember seeing in college basketball. I like the way they play. There's so much teamwork. There's so much shifting. They actually play as a unit as opposed to just man-to-man guarding what's there. It was just an absolutely sublime performance. He is one of my favorite, if not my favorite college basketball coach, if we're going to be honest. NS says, what a win. Another great performance for D. I love how this team is showing they can truly compete on the top level. Yes, if you can win that game at Alabama, you can win a game at any location. Gage says, you just lost to Culture Chris and the boys. I love that meme, by the way. That's fun. And the Dirty Mike and the boys for baseball is also pretty fantastic. Saints fan 04 says it's the biggest win in Ole Miss basketball history. Yes, I think it probably is if you just look at it. Rebel Munchkin says, I think we just got another steal. Yeah, I've never seen a defense just completely befuddle a good offense the way that Ole Miss did. Hooper Premium says, as shocking as it is, my Rebels might be legit. Yes. Mark Walsh, we won and shot like 25% on 3-pointers. Exactly 25%, if we're going to be honest. Tony Pierce says he'll take a win over Alabama every day. Pensacola, Florida, fear the beard, which Kenny Williams, congratulations. But yeah, Chris Beard's kind of slowly drifting towards the fear the beard set right now. William Bowles says great win over Alabama and forced turnovers. Yeah, it was a defensive clinic. It genuinely was a defensive clinic. Ray Duncan says it seems like the free throws were one-sided once again. Yeah, and it really was. At one point, Ole Miss had 5 for the game, and Alabama had like 14. Now, it probably evened up as Ole Miss got to the line a little bit later on in the game, but early on it was interesting. And that technical foul where the Alabama player just decided to keep playing, and then whenever Ole Miss continued to block the shot and try to play, all of a sudden he got called for a technical to give Alabama a potential 4-point trip. Yeah, that was kind of some bunk, and that was like the SEC office trying to put their thumb on the scales a little bit, I think. Bo Henry, Atlanta, Georgia. Happy birthday to me. Awesome present. Bo Henry, happy birthday from every Loomer and Locked On Ole Miss, from us to you, man. I'm glad you had a good birthday. Roy LaBella, HYDR, HT, that means hotty toddy, from Greenville, Mississippi, over in the Delta. Ray Duncan, but the crap technical fouls seemed to light a fire under the good guys. Yeah, I'm telling you, man, that was the SEC office. It's like Sankey made a phone call and there's like, hey, we need to do something. If you get an opportunity, do something. John Curtis Shelton, what do you think about Quinn Ewers transferring to Ole Miss? He's not. Quinn Ewers has a negative 37% chance of transferring to Ole Miss. Craig Murray, Dia for the win. Yes, Malik Dia is a man. He has turned in the alpha of this basketball program. You have a situation where Matthew Morrell and Jamin Brakefield is the 4 and the 5 options on this basketball team. Whenever you have a team where Morrell is the 4th option, that's something to talk about. Malik Dia is the best player since Breon Tyree. I think he's the best player since Dwayne Curtis. Maybe a more athletic Dwayne Curtis. Everybody remember Dwayne Curtis when he played? He was a king. He was more below the rim and all that, but he was so effective. It's almost like him or Raheem Lockhart, those guys. That's kind of what they remind me of. Jamie Meredith, amazing game. That's good. Hey, Jamie, hadn't talked to you in a while, man. Hope you're well. Nanu Sklip says Ole Miss is elite. Yeah, this team is an arrival on the scene. This is going to be a great situation. Carson Beck did an outstanding job. I don't know what that means. Did Channing Ward play tonight? Oh, I think that was probably in reference to the 2014 or 2015 game, if I'm not mistaken. Lamaru is the best 11. Dia is that guy. Yeah, he is. He has a chance to be a next level player. We were wondering who was going to be that, and he is turning into a huge matchup problem for everybody that Ole Miss is facing. No Slips. Ole Miss is 4-0 in the SEC. How about that? When did we become a basketball school? Probably the moment we hired Chris Beard, if we're going to be honest, David. John Curtis Shelton is JC from Savannah, Georgia. Tristan McMullen, we can definitely beat State if we play like this tonight. If we play like this tonight, we can beat Auburn. We can go down to the jungle and win if we play like we did tonight. We just need to shoot a little bit better, but this team can win any game on end floor if they play defense like this. Defense travels. They always talk about that. Defense travels. Tristan McMullen from Clinton, Mississippi, we can beat State by 15 if we play like we did tonight. DJ Rabid Rebel, Alabama fans were screaming at the refs saying Ole Miss was playing dirty. That's because they're soft. Ole Miss played physical and good for them. But Alabama, they did look very soft, especially around the goal. Curtis transferred to us from Auburn, if I remember correctly. Yes, that's the one I'm talking about. Keith Davis, I've been watching Ole Miss basketball for 60 years. This defense reminds me of Wetlick's teams, except we aren't totally dependent on two scorers like Stroud and Turner. That is a little bit before my time, Keith. I'm going to take your word for it, but I'll talk to Tim Thomas tomorrow about that. He'll be on there Friday talking about this game and previewing the Mississippi State game. So that'll be Friday night's video with Tim Thomas. Hope our boy Tom Vanderford was watching. I'm sure he was. I can almost guarantee that Tom was up there looking. Tristan McMullen, off topic. Do you think we land Thaddeus Dixon? I think it's going to be tight. I think North Carolina hiring his defensive backs coach at Washington, although I do not think that is something that people should focus completely on because he was transferring away from that defensive backs coach to start with. But I do think North Carolina is trying to make it interesting. I think Ole Miss is probably up there. I mean, people are talking on message boards like it's going to be a done deal, which that usually means it's not, but they're getting that confidence from somewhere. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt on that. And I like Thaddeus Dixon. I've talked about that. He is the one player in this transfer portal that is comparatively like the big three from last year. And that big three was Walter Nolan, Princely Amamuellen, and Trey Amos. So if you can get that, it would be great, but we'll see if Ole Miss can finish it. I like the DB pickup that they got from Washington State today. He's going to be an interior defensive back like John Saunders was. That's what Pete Golden does. He goes out and finds cornerbacks and puts them in the middle of the field. So we'll see. Antonio Kite, there's a lot of players that Ole Miss has gotten recently that is going to be interesting. Matthew Mitchell says Bama was flopping all night and the refs were no help to us when it came to foul calls. Yeah, it was bad. They didn't look right. Alabama didn't look right. They just didn't. Even like Mark Sears and Grant Nelson, everything, nothing quite looked right. And a lot of that had to do with the defense that Ole Miss was playing and giving them different looks. And by the way, at about a minute and a half left to go in the game, switching to a zone defense or like a triangle or two or something like that to give them a different look to keep them from getting on a run, that was some like 4D chess next level coaching by Chris Beard, and that was really cool to see. Is Malik Dia the best Ole Miss player since Brian Tyree? No, I think he's better than Tyree. I do. I said Dwayne Curtis. Let's see. Nano Clips. If Ole Miss goes to March Madness, how far can you see them going? Well, that all depends on the matchup. You know, if Ole Miss plays like they did tonight, they can go into the Final Four. There's a Final Four team. But it all depends on the matchup. If Ole Miss gets stuck in a bracket to where they're the 4 seed and the 1 seed is Auburn or Duke or something like that, all of a sudden the Sweet 16, you know, it all depends on the matchup when it comes to the NCAA tournament. Alan Hawkins just saw the score. Incredible win. It was fantastic. And yes, they just sucked the life out of the building. Mark Walsh says they took the crowd out of the ball game. It was pretty cool. Matthew Mitchell says Bama didn't look right all night because they haven't gone up against a team that is scrappy as we are, and a good call on the defensive scheme switch. Yeah. Whenever they did that and whenever Bama got it to 6 points with like a minute to go in the game, that was amazing. There's a reason that Chris Beard gets the big bucks and it's making decisions like that. And he gets all the credit in the world for what happened tonight. He gets to have on his resume the biggest win in Ole Miss basketball history. Nunner Script says the pavilion better be packed from now on. Our attendance has been so unacceptable. I do think that it will be. They're going to stripe out Auburn. I think you can count on the Auburn game being a hard sellout and a stripe out. There's so many good games, and right now I can tell you, as somebody that lived through this in 97 and 98, the buzz that goes through, whenever you get to this point and it starts buzzing, all of a sudden the 25,000 students that are on Oxford's campus are starting to figure out ways to get in there, whether they can do that or not. Now, the side next to the club level, that's going to be difficult regardless, but you're going to have hard sellouts for much of the rest of the year. The pavilion's going to kind of get its money's worth. Michael Speck says biggest regular season win he can remember, and he's absolutely true with that. So check one more. We almost doubled the spread, and I cannot be more happy about it. The spread was Bama minus 10.5. Yeah, it was one of those things, and I was scared to death with what kind of a volume scoring team they could be. But Ole Miss did a good job of just completely shutting down Alabama. Anyway, we're going to cut it off right there. Tomorrow on the show, we talk about the national media basically ignoring Austin Simmons. Whenever they talk about quarterbacks in 2025, we look at that. We talk about an offensive scheme change, potentially, if you look at the players that the transfer portal has brought in, and we talk about the offensive line and why they get a little bit of a bad rap, and everybody's want more in the transfer portal. Well, it may not quite be that simple. So we'll see that. That's tomorrow's show. Tomorrow night, we have Brian Smith, the Florida football scout. We talk about 2026 quarterbacks that Ole Miss is recruiting. We talk about Tristan Keys. We talk about Pierce Clarkson a little bit. And on Thursday's squad show, we've already filmed that. That was pretty funny. We talk about the girl talking about an SEC coach sliding into her DMs a little bit on that. So tune in for all of that stuff. We have Tim Thomas coming Friday. We're going to have Brantley Sanderson talking Lady Rebels basketball this week. We're going to have Tom Vanderford. We're going to have Michael Katz. It's going to be awesome. So thank you for tuning in, and we're going to talk to you later, everybody. Hotty toddy.